Hello, welcome to another webinar. Really excited about today's presentation as it's been a lot of thinking in the last few months, and it all kind of started and stemmed from a conversation I had on the Clinic Mastery podcast a while ago, or about a month or two ago, that I highly recommend listening to. And the concept that I was talking to Jack about was this idea around how clinics these days need to have a speciality or a focus. We won't call it a speciality in AHPRA world. And then off the back of that, I sort of started to think more about that. And last month I did a webinar on kind of like the biggest challenges facing allied health when it comes to marketing. And I broke down that webinar into three sections. So first, I highly recommend that you go and watch that again. But just a quick recap. Number one, when we're building a business or we're sort of designing anything, we really want to come to a destination that's well designed, right? So if we think about a house, there's so much pre-work that goes into the final product. We've got the designs of the house, the architecture, then you've even got plans for the electricals, the plumbing, then we need to know, the fit out as well. So there's so much that goes into that it then becomes no fluke that you've just built a house, right? And it's no different to a business. Like, we can start a business with this idea of like, hey, I can do it better than them. But if we don't kind of define what that better is, we're kind of like shuffling through the business world and, we're trying things and, we might fluke it, but most often than not, we don't. So that's what I really touched on in the last webinar. And part of that was to really dial down in this idea of a target market. So, if I think about a target market of, let's just say being like headache clinics, we know that people with headaches have particular pain points. They've tried many different therapies along the way. We kind of know all that already, and then we have like a better idea of what messages we want to put out to them. And at the end of the day, better marketing always wins. And we know this through Apple, right? Like, we can go and I can go and find a mobile phone that's probably half the price of the iPhone, but at the end of the day, like, we know the Apple phone's better, but we only know that because of the marketing, and they've obviously put in a lot of sort of work into the product as well, but that they make us believe that. So today I wanted to make it an extension of last webinar and really talk about building marketing assets. This concept of hunting versus farming. I first heard about it from a guy by the name of Alan Dibb, who's the author of the One-Page Marketing Plan. And if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. It dives deep into online marketing, and he basically talks to the small business owner. So a lot of that might not be relevant for clinics per se, but there is a lot that I kind of got from that book, and even to this day I still think about it a lot. And then the last thing is, without action, we sort of kind of get nowhere, so I've got a couple of action points for you. Alrighty, let's jump in. So, what are marketing assets? So first, let's just sort of think about an asset, right? Income comes from assets. So we think about your business, and that generates you an income. And then if we take a next step down, and we're thinking about certain aspects of your business that generate income, it could be, the equipment you've got, or it could be, even like your staff and your IP is an asset, right? And it's no different to marketing, in my view. And those assets we own are the assets we want to build. So if we think about a website, if we think about marketing lists, emails, and all that kind of stuff, that's the asset that's going to generate an income for us. So through these assets, we want to nurture patients that aren't necessarily ready to buy just now, and that's what I want to kind of talk about a lot today. And also, we need to find out that the patient's a good fit for us, and we need a filtering system. I speak to a lot of practitioners, and the first thing I hear is that they don't want to work with everyone. Like, they do, but they promote that, but they do have their focuses or their specialities that they do like to work with, and that's something we need to build into our assets. The last point I want to touch on is that social media is not an asset, and the reason is that you're basically renting your Facebook page. So you're the tenant, not the landlord, right? So and the reason I sort of say this is because Twitter, Facebook, their number one revenue source is from ad spend. So they're always naturally going to persuade you to spend money with them. So back in the day, talking probably 4 or 5 years ago, people put everything into Facebook, and they got, like thousands of followers. And then overnight, you would do a post and you would only reach 2% of followers. And you had to put money in to reach, the other, 98% of the followers. And that just became an expense that we weren't ready for. And, we had to scramble in order, to meet those requirements. And the list goes on. Like, Facebook a couple of years ago sort of said we can't advertise in sort of body transformation. And, that's very close to home for the allied health, dietitians and stuff like that. And Elon Musk now buying Twitter kind of speaks to that as well, because he's starting to charge whatever that amount is, $8, $12 for the little icon, the influencer blue Twitter icon. So we don't want to kind of put all of our eggs into that social media asset. It does work though, but we want social media to kind of represent and to enhance the assets that we're putting into the website. So this is the Alan Dibb concept first came about, is the idea of there are two types of marketing. There's hunting and farming. So when we think about hunting, it's a very difficult life. You have to hunt for food. If you don't bring the food back, your family doesn't eat. And a lot of businesses are actual hunters and hustlers and stuff like that. So, cold calling is a perfect example. Like, you don't want to sort of, be in a business where, you start every month, okay, here's my new list of cold calls, we're going to spend all this money on ads. That just comes as a very kind of flimsy sort of marketing plan, because we're always like, oh, that didn't work, so let's do this, and there's no sort of strategy behind that, and it can also come off really desperate. And so I'm not saying that we don't want to be sort of hunting. There is a place for that, but at the same time, we also want to be farming. So what we mean by this is, like, we're planting the seed, we're nurturing a harvest, and mature businesses do this exceptionally well. So coming back to the Apple example, they've been doing this for a long, long time, and they do this, and they have a system behind this. They have a product launch once a year, and that's where they release all their products. And there might be like one real high profile product that they launch, but they get a whole lot of media behind it, and that's really by design, right? They've kind of put that together, and other tech companies now follow. I don't know if they were the first to market with this concept, but when I think about this idea, like, Apple comes to mind definitely. So in our space, or in the allied health space, like, what does farming marketing look like? So number one is positioning yourself and your clinic as the authority. So when we think about niching down, we're thinking, we're coming back to this idea about being the headache clinic, and we really position ourselves as the authority in that space. So, we might do extra training on headaches. We may have had 5-10 years experience in headaches. We have written all these blog posts around it. All of our assets kind of go into this. And what that also means is we can lead with what we call value-driven ad targeting pain points. So we know, for example, the clients we see, there's a trend that people with headaches have tried different types of therapy with very little results. And we know why. And I'm just kind of making this up as I go, but we know that they've got to get their nutrition right. They've got to get the physio or the osteo, whatever goes on to help. If it comes from referred pain. We can kind of speak to this, and for our prospects, this could be a real big aha moment, right? They didn't realise, it's neck pain. Yeah, now that they mentioned this, yeah. And that, if we have that in an ad or it's in, an article that we've stumbled across, we're ready to take action. We're ready to call, and then really, from your side of the fence, you're going to be ready to capture that booking or capture that email. So, and I'm about to talk about this, but, there might be some people that aren't just ready to just make, do an assessment booking with you, but they might just want a 15-minute consultation chat before they get into that. And that's what we have to build into our asset, into our system. This is a diagram I stumbled across a while ago. I don't think it's 100% accurate in terms of the figures, and I don't even have the source for it. But I think it still paints a picture and that I really want to talk about. So when we think about, let's just say, okay, this is like a pie chart of people coming to your website, right? 30% of people just aren't going to be interested in your service. And another 30% wouldn't even buy it if it was free, right? So that really leaves us with this little 39% down here. So 3% of people are ready to buy. We know that because, if we look at, the conversion rates, I've looked at the analytics data across clients, and it might be a bit higher than 3%, but generally that's, I think, a good rule of thumb. But what often gets missed in the marketing world and in the hunting world is these group of people that are very open to buying, but they just don't, or they're interested, but they're just not ready to buy now. So this is where our farming comes into place, is how do we target these patients? So how do we tap into that 39% other than that kind of 3%? So we're really talking about ready to buy today or buying in the future, and that's kind of like this future of marketing. So I believe it comes down to what's coined as evergreen content. So it's content that's going to kind of last the test of time, that we're demonstrating to these potential people that we can help them. And we can do that in the form of blog articles or ebooks, webinars like I'm doing now. We can post some videos, short form videos, or social posts. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to position ourselves as the expert and as a trusted authority. So by writing all these articles, we're writing to particular people. We know that, like I said before, we know their pain points. We're educating them, and we want to answer them. We want to give away enough information that they're going to say, okay, this person is what I've been looking for. They're putting up their hand. They've identified themselves as I need this service. They're going to help me. So on the service pages, as an example, we see this a lot. We do this a lot and have FAQs. So around the headaches and migraines, we could easily find 10 or 15 questions that are often asked. Blogs and articles is just a really great way and it comes back to the asset, right? We're writing that blog post. It's living on our website. No one can take it away from us. And I had a great conversation with a client the other day, and we're going to start to, he's basically going to write out a book. So he's got a title for his book, and he's got 6 chapters of that book, and each chapter we're actually going to just write as a blog post. And then when we get to the end of that, we're going to create an ebook or a PDF, and we're going to have that resource sitting on his website for people to download. But we're also going to take that and we're going to give that to doctors, GPs and surgeons and stuff. And this idea is what we want to kind of repurpose this content for, and then that's where we can, repurpose it for the social media and leverage those type of platforms to drive traffic to the website. So there are 3 elements to this, right? One is we've got to get our tools right. So I've got a bias towards WordPress. I've been using it for 15 years now, 15 years, I don't want to think about that. And it's great because, it's got the blog, it was built as the blog. There are heaps of plugins in there. If we want to do e-commerce, we can easily do that. There are heaps of developers that can kind of help you, and there are a lot of great resources out there. Clinic Apps is another great resource that you need to have on your site. Or we've actually got our own platform called Patient Hub that feels a little bit better than Clinic Apps, but we'll talk about that on another day. Or MailChimp. So the idea of these platforms, they're going to help us capture and nurture our leads. So if you think about it, they're kind of a database, and they... and so that database, if you think about a spreadsheet, they're going to be names and email addresses. And some of those are going to be patients, and some of those are actually going to be potential patients. And when we got those potential patients, we want to email them. And we need to really have that platform in play in order to do this whole long-term marketing plan. Our assets are obviously, as I've spoken about, our website. Our evergreen content becomes our asset, and then our email marketing follow-ups also becomes an asset and a system that we build. And like everything in life, it's no different with marketing. Marketing comes down to having a really good process. And the people who win at marketing have a great process. There's like daily, weekly, monthly activities that we can do, and if we chip away at that for long enough, we eventually build, that's our asset, and we'll eventually, be able to achieve what Apple have been doing for so long, where they've just got a system and a process around, their product launches, their PRs, and then they've got ads and emails, and the whole thing is just processed and systemized, and they're refining that over time. Every year, I'm sure they get better and better, and learning from that. But it all started, however many years ago, with this thinking, with this kind of design in mind, that's just been executed year after year. So it's really important that we leverage a team or your team to help you run this marketing. And whether some people are involved in creating in your team, they're handy with social media, or they're handy with design, or they're good at copywriting, then leverage that. And the way to leverage that is to create a 3 to 6 month marketing calendar. You could do 12 months or 2 years, but I just love this idea of maybe every 3 months or 6 months. Then it gives you a chance to kind of refine the system, what's worked, what hasn't worked. But when I talk about a calendar, like actually schedule that into your diary. So, for instance, I've got everything we do with local health marketing is pretty much scheduled into the calendar. So, as an example, 2 weeks ago, or like 6 months ago, I had six months worth of webinar topics, and then on the second week of the month, I have scheduled on a Friday time to work on this presentation. It takes a bit of time to do the research and come up with the ideas and stuff, but once you get started, personally I find it pretty therapeutic. And then after that, I've also got other systems in place as well. So every 2 weeks I like to do a video, like just a 10-minute video on how to use a particular platform. But then I'll use my team to help me kind of repurpose that. So Chrislyn from our team helps me take this webinar and she'll upload it to YouTube. We've got a particular checklist that we need to go through, create a thumbnail, write a little bit of content, upload it to our website, and then it gets syndicated out on social media, and even that's got its own place in the calendar. And then it just becomes a routine, and it doesn't become such a daunting task. If we think about marketing, it's like, oh, where do you start? You're going to write a 20-page plan? It's just literally schedule it into the calendar, and as you kind of get your practice, you just get better and better at doing it. And then, like any other asset, like if we're going to sort of put money in the bank or build to save for a home, whatever that is, we're just doing a little bit at a time, and after years of doing this, we eventually just kind of builds up. So the action items, number one, if you haven't watched last month's webinar, I highly recommend it. And out of that, design a destination for your clinic. So think in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, this is what I want to get to. I want to have 5 clinicians. I want to be in a bigger space. I want to have physiotherapy, exercise, and nutrition. We might not be there now, but that's where we're heading. Then create, and really important, to schedule a marketing calendar. So if that's just starting off writing as simple as creating your evergreen content. So once a month, the first Friday of every month, I'm going to write 800 words. And then I'm going to, then the next thing is I'm going to send it over to someone to proofread that. Then someone else is going to create 3 social media posts out of that blog post, and someone's going to upload that for me. Schedule that into the diary. Everyone gets invited into that little calendar, and they know exactly what they need to do. Some tasks might take 15 minutes or an hour, but you just kind of block out that time. And what's really important about this evergreen content is that we want to repurpose that. So it's not just where people kind of where blog posts and stuff don't work is when you just kind of upload it to your website and hope that it gets Google pick it up, and we hope we get rankings out of it. It really works. We need to kind of show Google that there are people coming to that, article. So, because if they see, okay, people come to the article, they're reading some time, spending some time on that, reading it. Google know this; they have that information, and basically, we can do that. We can have a monthly or a quarterly email newsletter that goes out with a little snippet of our article. We can easily create 3 to even 6 social media posts. You could easily create 3 or 4 sort of images and with the points you're trying to make on that post, and you can even create little reels around that. Even if you just were to read the post, that's fine, and then link it back to your blog post. And another platform that I absolutely love is YouTube. It's the second biggest search engine behind Google. I've been using it a lot for my webinars, and just getting a lot of calls of people saying, "Oh, what's your thing on YouTube?" And it was, "I learnt this, but can I ask you A, B, C, and D?" And that didn't happen overnight. Like, I'm sort of about 7 or 8 months into this journey, but it's just, I feel the more I do put into YouTube, I'm seeing that my organic SEO is also growing as well. And then once we've kind of got this all in play, maybe after month 1 or month 2, edit your homepage and add the new content there. Add like, if you become like, you create a concept of the headache clinic as that example, slap that on the homepage, have a link to the service page of the headache clinic or the blog articles that mention it, and just start seeing what traction you get. And the key is just to kind of measure that and iterate, and eventually over time you're going to play this long game of marketing that always wins. So that's pretty much a wrap. It was a very sort of short one today, but yeah, I just wanted to really thank you for your time. I am contactable at my email address, michael@localhealthmarketing, or feel free to give me a call on my mobile. I love talking to clinic owners. I learn a lot about what you do. I'm able to kind of pass around that information and share some ideas as well, which is what I really love about the allied health space. So thank you very much.